took me 10 years to realize what I'm about to tell you in the next few minutes. It's all just a game and there is no winning, but you can still be successful. As I got into my 30s, there are those things I realized I have to unlearn, those lessons I've learned over time. There are those things I realized when I moved forward that I had to unlearn the things that I thought are not possible, but actually realized it was the lessons I've learned over time. But as I moved forward with my life, I realized I had to unlearn those lessons. Yeah, I think those things you have to unlearn. If someone would have told me when I was in my teens, I would have made different decisions. I would have made different choices and have hung out in different places. There is no, this is how this world works. This is how we've built the world over time. It's all just a game. And to be successful in this whole thing, you just need to understand the game. What is the game being played and understand the rules. And when you understand the rules, then you can be able to play. No, but this is how we've built this to work. You can actually make it if you understand how these whole things work. And over time, as I move forward in my life, I've realized how many things I don't understand, but I thought I understand, and then realized, okay, it's just a game. And then you left to your own devices to choose which game to play, which effort you're going to put in so you get the results. Be ready to move. Growing up in a poor country and eventually leaving that country to go live in a refugee camp, all of a sudden I was not prepared for that. I was not ready for that. I didn't even think it's possible in my life, but it just happened. And from there I've moved places a couple of times, and every time I moved place, it changed my life. It challenged my view of the world. I met new people, things I've never thought existed, things I never thought were possible. I think when I look back in my life, growing up, I would look at the rich families. They would send their kids to study abroad in China, in the US, or in Europe. And I didn't understand why until I moved places. I moved to Europe, I moved to cities, big cities, and you realize, yeah, it's all to uncover your eyes and see what you haven't seen and actually realize what's possible. Those things I didn't think they can be possible in my view, in my world view. But when you move places, you challenge your status quo, you challenge your views, you challenge how you see things, and it opens up your mind. Get ready to move. Get ready to move. It will profoundly change your life. You have to look into yourself. You have to look into yourself. There is no shortcut for that. I didn't understand. It took me too long to get it. The statement of know thyself. It's very important to know yourself, know what makes you move, what makes you run, you know. And I didn't have time to look into myself when I was growing up, possibly because of the circumstances I was growing up into, living in a refugee camp, moving places, feeling like this is not where you're supposed to be, and trying to figure out your next moves, all the time being on yeah, I'm ready to move because this doesn't feel like home. I want to move. I want to change place. So you have to look into yourself. You have to look into yourself. I stopped and looked into myself and realized how much I wasn't listening. First of all, listening to myself, but also listening to everything around me, the people around me, and everything surrounding my environment. But the most important thing I've learned is there are those things you learn about yourself that you don't want to know, but it serves you well if you know those things. These things you don't like, things you like, things that makes you move. I kind of make this statement saying that find your drug. Find your drug, find what makes you move, what makes you run. And there is no shortcut for that. You have to look into yourself. It takes time, it takes strength to face yourself, look yourself into the eyes and say, yeah, this is it. This is what we have to work on. This is what we have to appreciate. This is what we have to let go. And it's painful. It's painful, but it's freeing. you cannot care what other people think about you. I remember growing up until in my late 20s, 27, 28, I gave so much strength and focus on what other people think about me, what I say, what I do. Of course, we live in a society, you have to be a decent human being, but in the end, you cannot care what other people think. Whether you succeed or fail, you spend so much time in your mind thinking what the people are going to think when I do this, and then fail or succeed or wherever, when I embarrass myself or I get rejected. But actually, they're doing the exact same thing. They are thinking about yourself. They are thinking about what you're thinking about them. And in the end, you realize no one is thinking about me because they are busy thinking about themselves. I think it took me a couple of years to realize that. And as I turned 30, I realized, okay, for sure I was caring what other people think about me, what people think about what I do, or what I wear, or how I behave. But in the end, I realized there are many things I have stopped doing because I was worried what other people think about me, when people will figure out what I was doing. And it takes time, but you cannot let it stops you from doing what you want to do, what you have to do. I think the great thing I've learned in this life so far, when I stopped, at least I stopped the engine, and I was like, no, we cannot keep this engine running this way. And you kind of have to have the empathy for yourself. When I turned 30 and look into myself, I realized how much I wasn't empathetic to myself, and other people suffered because of that, because I had less empathy for them as well as I was having less empathy for me. But as I move forward in my life, I've developed empathy for me, empathy for the people around me, empathy for people I meet. Because I remember when I was looking back into my life and I realized I didn't like when my parents did give me what I wanted, or the things I wanted, the things I liked to have. But then I stopped a little bit and looked back, and I felt ashamed of thinking that way, because you realize how much they were trying their best with the information they had. But now I've developed a strong empathy for me, but also for them and everyone, because it's not easy. It's not easy to figure out things. It's not easy to push yourself. It's not easy to do things you don't want to do. It's just hard. So I had this empathy for me, but also empathy for other people. And I think I've become a good person as a result, because now I have empathy for me, but also empathy for the people I meet everywhere. I think one of the mistakes I made when I was growing up in my early 20s, I broke up with my high school girlfriend. When I started my undergrad, I broke up with her, and it took me a long time to get over that, and I decided to be single for almost 3 years. And I think that was a mistake I made, because there are those feedbacks I missed, there are those lessons I would have learned during that period. Because when you happen to be in a relationship with someone, you have someone you can trust, someone who is watching you, and someone you want to impress. And I think it's very important to have that, because it makes you improve and work on yourself as much as possible, because you have someone who is watching you, someone who is honest with you, someone whom you want to impress. And I think when you're young, growing up, it's useful to be in a relationship with someone, so you can learn those lessons, learn things about you, but learn how a relationship works, and dealing with people with different temperaments, but most importantly, controlling your emotions, know how to regulate yourself. I think there are those lessons I missed during that time I was single. Get in a relationship. There are levels to whatever you do, whatever I do, whatever we engage ourselves into, work, school, personal projects, and everything we do. Test your limits and see how much you can do, and see how much you can take, how much you can tolerate, how much pain you can take in, and actually keep going. And I think when you test your limits, and it's like a muscle, you hurt yourself first, but the next time you go, you've developed this resistance, this level, you've unlocked another level. So I think for all the young people there in your teen years, test your limits. Test your physical limits, test your cognitive limits, test yourself. It doesn't matter. I don't care what it is. Test yourself and see how much you can do, how much you can take. Test your limits, and I think it will serve you well as when you growing up and move forward with your life. I think the thing you realize when you get into your 30s, it's the first time you notice the level of energy, the difference between you in your 20s and you in your 30s. The energy has to be produced on purpose in your 30s, but in your 20s you have this unending source of energy you can use to do anything. So test your limits and then see how much you can do, how much pain you can take. One thing that have visited me is this realization that we are all dying every day. This day I won't have it ever in my life again. I remember moving places and living different places, trying to figure out my life, spend so much time without seeing my parents. And one day I wanted to kind of succeed and figure out my life before I go back to see them. But I realized they probably don't have so much time as I do here, statistically speaking, and which means they're quickly dying more than I am, and they kind of have less time with me, so I should go see them. And I think I realized and decided I have to go and see my parents, because we are all dying every day, and this time we have now, it's gone forever, it's never coming back. And that opened this theory of memento mori. Remember, we are not here for long, we are not here forever. We will all die sooner or later, but not to scare you. Don't be scared about it, but actually gives you this peace of mind, which is, okay, it's just a journey. In the end, we are not getting anywhere. So enjoy the passing of time. When you look at yourself, what you actually notice, it's all in the mind. It's all in the mind. And one thing I've learned getting into my 30s is how much we don't control our mind. We don't control our thoughts, our ideas. They basically choose us, visit us. But one thing I've realized and learned is to control how to react on your thoughts, on your mind, and attempt to take control and actually take the wheel and drive. But if you let your mind drive, it will drive you crazy, it will drive you nuts, it will stop you from doing what you want to do. It will stop you from doing that project. It will stop you from approaching that person because you think, yeah, he's going to say no, she's going to say no, and then so what? The mind is always trying to talk us out of everything we are trying to do. So it's all in the mind. And I think one of the things I've realized is you will do anything and you will be anything you want if you learn to control your mind and actually tell it to obey you and do what you want to do, and actually support you to do what you want to do, because it is always most of the time against us and trying to talk us out of whatever we are trying to do. After changing places, I have realized that I haven't figured out my life, and so there's many young people over there. So I decided to use this podcast, Change Me, because I wanted the change. I wanted the change in the world, but most importantly, I wanted the change in me. So I started Change Me Podcast. So check out Change Me Podcast. Thank you for listening.